and she said, I've always wanted to have a
Mm.
real estate show. And she put her her finger on the phone and she called in her secretary and asked if she could ask the head of programming to come into the room. And I'm like, what's going on?
Right then and there?
Right then and there. And she said, do
Wow.
we have a slot for Cathy Hobbs for a real estate show on Sunday? And I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
Sunday?
What? On Sundays, do we have a Sunday slot?
So I am so happy today. I have Cathy Hobbs on, and she is a longtime RESA member. She's had a long-standing relationship with Shel Broadnax, our CEO, and Shel told me Cathy has a new book coming out a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, we need to get her in here and talk to her about her book, talk to her about her journey. There's a lot of people that already know Cathy in the staging industry, but I'm all about amplifying stagers' voices. And so when one of you come out with a book, I have got to have you on my show. So, Cathy, what made you decide to write a book? Let's start right there.
I always wanted to write a book, but it just seemed so hard. How do I get a literary agent? How do I find a publisher? I actually realized that maybe 17 years ago, I took a little how to write a book query class at the
Mm.
Learning Annex. And it's just something I always wanted to do. I don't know why. It's kind of like you have that little checklist, those goals for yourself. I realized that it was possible when I interviewed a friend who used to work with me in television, and she had several books. I interviewed her during COVID, and I said to her after it was all over, I said, congratulations, by the way. I said, I always want to write a book. And she said, I'll introduce you to my publisher. I'm like, really? And she did. They loved the idea of design recipes, which is part of my brand. And what was really approachable for them and me is that I had been asked about 10 years ago to be a nationally syndicated design writer for Tribune Content Agency. And so I've been nationally syndicated for the last 10 years, responsible for an article a week that's syndicated in maybe 500, 1,000 papers across the country. My writing style is very quick, short, do's, don'ts, how-tos, fab fives, top tens in the form of recipes. And so they said, the publisher, why don't we package these in the form of recipes like a design style cookbook? So that was really where it came from, room by room recipes for design, like you would have meal prep
Mhm.
throughout a cookbook. So
Exactly.
that's where it came from. And I wanted to make it approachable to people because my whole mantra as a designer is approachable design. I never wanted to be that fancy um, designer stager. I wanted to be able to appeal to the common man and be approachable regardless of someone's, let's say, budget.
Hmm.
We can do very luxurious projects, and we also do, projects where someone maybe has a limited budget. We change what we're doing. We still give them that aesthetic. So I wanted to also create a guide, like a resource manual that someone could take the book, and all they have to do is add their own spice in order to make it their own. So that's what I created. And I didn't want it to be a coffee table gloss book with just unattainable images that people
Hmm.
couldn't follow. So instead, the photographs are more representations that coincide with the recipe. And again, you don't have to follow everything that you're seeing. You're taking the basic design principles and elements. It's kind of like if you're making a sauce, sometimes you can add your own
Hmm.
little spice that you know will work,
It's funny you mentioned
or
that
that you
because
already have.
yes, my favorite chili recipe, I did just that, and only my husband knows my
What are you
couple little
using in your chili
secrets.
recipe, may I ask?
Well, I'll tell you after here, because literally, I
Okay,
have it written down. I took it from
okay.
a
You're
YouTube.
not trying to share your secret recipe,
Well,
then it won't be special anymore.
exactly. It's something
Okay.
that I stole from somebody else and then I made it my own by adding a couple little things. And I say to my husband, if something ever happens to me, you are the only only one that knows this. And I took
Okay.
that because his mother had something similar with one of her famous recipes.
Okay.
And it was funny you mentioned that because when I was reading your book, I was like, okay, this is like the perfect, like, oh, this is a good little basic starter kit, especially because I'm always thinking about things from a home staging perspective, how to help home stagers. And I thought, if I owned a home staging business, I'd buy this book and I'd give it to my team. And I'd be like, when I hire someone new, I want you to read this because it's got all of the principles. And to your point, then I'll talk about how we
It's
add our
really a
spice.
guidebook in
Yes.
design. Someone who I greatly admire, called it a masterclass in
Mhm.
design. The founder of the leading real estate trade publication in the country, The Real Deal,
Yep.
um, he called it a textbook in design. So those are the types of words that are being associated with the book. And I also made it so that it's timeless, so
Yes.
that it's not trendy. And when I had it in mind, when I had what I wanted it to represent, I thought back to when I was 18 years old and I went to college and my mother bought me the Betty Crocker cookbook. And she wrote in the front, "On your 18th birthday, happy cooking, love, Mom."
Oh, I love
And I
that.
still have that cookbook. And I wanted my book to be similar. It's something that you just keep
Yes.
referring to. Maybe even take it to the store. Maybe you
Add your own notes on
take
the
it
side.
shopping with you. You keep it and you refer to it multiple times along the way of your design journey.
So when you talk about the fact that you wanted to make sure that your business, this book, all aspects of your brand were obtainable to the everyday person, where do you
Mhm.
think that stems from? Why did you decide to make that choice?
Well, I think it comes from why I decided to be a designer in the first place. As many people know, my first career was as a television news reporter. I was a television news reporter and anchor for 20 years, mostly in New York. But when you're starting out, you're not always making a lot of money. And I
Mhm.
really couldn't afford furniture. So I would go to thrift stores and I would repurpose, I would paint, I would change knobs and handles. And those were really my weekend projects. And someone said to me, "I think you have a knack for design." And so I said to myself, I'm someone who would have never been able to afford a designer or what I thought a designer was
Mhm.
and how much a designer would charge. And so I said that when I open my business, I want to be approachable. I want to be able to be relatable to people in different as far as different lifestyles, different economic backgrounds. And that's also what I represented as a reporter. I could go into the upper echelon. I could interview senators and congressmen, and I could also relate to the common man.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's my approach as a person, that we will work with people because we want to help. And
Yeah.
and nearly every instance, we are able to accommodate, adjust, understand, interpret a budget to still give someone what they need to in our instance as a staging company sell their home.
So, for those who haven't had a personal conversation with you or maybe heard your story before that are tuning in, hearing that you were a reporter turned designer, I mean, a lot of people are like, how did that happen? I'm sure. So what made you, number one, fall in love with the idea of being a business owner enough to leave your full-time job? And then how did it become design that was your choice of business? Because you definitely, like you mentioned, didn't have a your education didn't start off in design, from what I understand.
Right. So we all have, those dreams, those goals, and sometimes we need to be pushed.
Mhm.
Sometimes we need either it's someone, something within ourselves, or just a circumstance that says it's time. So I basically was a reporter for, the whole first large part of my career. I never took a journalism class. I majored in marketing
Mm.
and finance at the University of Southern California, had a minor in film, and thought about journalism and was told when I was taking my very first class that I didn't finish, that I'd never make it in television, that I didn't have what it took. And so
Hmm.
I dropped out of the class, but I still had that passion, and I ended up writing for the school newspaper at USC. And then I had a news director who hired me while I was still in college to be a reporter at the NBC station in Bakersfield. So that's how I launched my television career while I was still in college on air, and it just led to different jobs. Along the way during that journey, I replaced in three different instances at three different television stations someone who was fired,
Hmm.
and I was the replacement. And what had happened to those people was they were told to pack their desk. And television is a very volatile industry. You're only as good as I say your last live shot. You can win an Emmy and the next day not have your contract renewed. That's just the way it works. And so I always said that if they come for me, I'm going to have a plan B. I'm going to have
Hmm.
a backup plan. If they ever ask me to pack up my desk, I'm going to make sure that I'm set, because a lot of those people, um, they became rudderless. They didn't have a plan B. For me, I thought that my only set of skills was being a reporter. I was very good at it. I got it. But I knew that if I needed a plan B, I had to prepare for it.
Hmm.
So I decided to educate myself. And I enrolled in design school uh, at FIT, the Fashion Institute of
Hmm.
Technology, while I was still a reporter. I was enrolled as a full-time student, never have been one to need a lot of sleep. And I would attend school in the morning, and then I would cover fires and shoot 'em ups at night as an evening news reporter in New York City.
Wow.
And, it was just something that I had in my hip pocket if I ever got that call that we're not renewing. And how I made that transition is around the time that I was, getting married and we were purchasing our first condominium, my husband and I, that, it was a boom in a neighborhood that was emerging, in New York called, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and we became friendly with the real estate agent who sold us the condominium. And they started talking about, and I was taking the classes, staging, and I said, "What's staging?" And they said, "Oh, staging is preparing a property for sale, and we would love to have someone maybe do the model apartments." I
Hmm.
didn't do the model purpose for that kind of, but then that company and the contact hired me to do a new development model
Wow.
residence, and I loved it. And that really just ignited everything. That was the springboard for this could be a second career. So for a long time, they were running
Hmm.
parallel. I was a news reporter and I was staging. Sometimes I would stage at night. So when I would stage on weekends, and I basically was running the business from the back of a live truck. Again, still doing the news. I had my mornings free, was staging. And then, we had a change of, kind of like the change of guard at, the news station where I was working. I could see
Mm.
that things were changing, and I had the opportunity that they wanted different things. And I had the opportunity to potentially host a show. And I went to the general manager of the station, and I had been a reporter there for 12 years, and I never went to her office. It just wasn't something
Wow.
I did. And she said, "Well, you must have something that you really wanna talk about." I said, "I do." And she said, "What is it?" I said, "I'd like to have my own show." She said, "Well, why would someone who is one of our main live reporters want their own real estate show?" And I said, I have always had an interest in it, and I actually went to design school." And she said, I've always wanted to have
Hmm.
a real estate show." And she put her her finger on the phone, and she called in her secretary and asked if she could ask the head of programming to come into the room, and I'm like, "What's going on?"
Right then and there.
Right then and there, and she said, "Do
Wow.
we have a slot for Cathy Hobbs for a real estate show on Sunday?" And I'm like, "You gotta be kidding."
Sunday?
"What? On Sundays, do we have a Sunday slot?" So, basically, they gave me my own show. It was kind of a conflict for me to be a news reporter, plus
Mm.
have my own show, and it's like, sometimes if
Who
not
wouldn't
now,
have thought that?
when? If not now, when? If not, my mother always says, "If not now, when? If not me, then who?"
Mhm.
So I had to make a choice, and I went with having my own show. And at that point, I also launched my business full time. So that's how it came about. Like I said, sometimes you need to be pushed.
Yep.
Sometimes you need a circumstance to present itself that you say, well, when am I going to do this? When am
Hmm.
I going to decide to take a leap? So that's how it came about for me.
That's very interesting. So you were kind of like doing the side hustle thing before the side hustle was a thing.
I was, and I'm not saying it happened. I was doing the side hustle for a good 7, 8
Yeah.
years, as a side hustle. But one of the things that I say to people is that what grows is what we fertilize.
Mm,
Plant a seed and watch it grow. You're not going to get full-time results from doing anything
no.
part-time. It's the same with our relationships,
Yeah.
if you don't nurture, your partner or your children or whatever, you're just gonna get the same thing. It's just gonna
Hmm.
be but if you put your whole heart into it, you'll get a different result. And so that's how I had to approach my business. It was fine as a side hustle, but it would have remained a side hustle.
Right. When it was a side hustle, was it just you doing all of the installs, the consultation, the sales, or did you at some point during that 7 years say, I need to bring somebody on?
I was always doing the sales, and I'm still doing the sales.
Okay.
I think that that's where I really excel, and I think that, if I were to give people advice, if someone says, "Well, I'm not a salesperson," well, maybe you are. Have you ever gotten into a restaurant in which there wasn't a reservation? Well, that's selling yourself. Have you ever convinced someone to do X, Y, and Z?
Hmm.
I realized that I was in sales because as a reporter, I needed to convince someone of something in a very short amount of time. In many cases in which that person was under duress. You
Hmm.
know, I covered crimes. I worked nights.
Yeah.
So it's someone who lost a loved one. And I
Hmm.
have to convince you to let me in to
Hmm.
get what they call in the TV industry family and photo,
Hmm.
to get the interview with the family and the photo. And that's selling someone. It's selling someone on a concept. And that's a kind of a morbid example, but when you're selling your services, you're selling someone on the concept of you, the concept of the value that your service is bringing as a staging company,
Hmm.
and everyone possesses that skill. And if you don't possess that skill, it's going to be hard for you to be in business
Very
because
difficult.
entrepreneurship, by its very definition, is sales.
There's gonna be a lot of people on here that are like, I don't want to hear that. What advice do you
I
have
know,
for
they
the
wanna do the
stager?
fun. Well, you can do
Yeah,
the fun too. I like the fun,
of course.
um, but you have to decide you're gonna be an owner or an operator. If
Mm,
what I also believe is there is something within ourselves that sometimes we say that I'm just not good at that,
yeah.
and then what you do is you find someone else
Ex
who is. I
yeah.
can tell you what I cannot do is I just can't draw. I don't possess the skill set. I will never be able to draw. It's just not something I have within me.
Me
So
neither.
I found a part of, to me, the design related industry, which is home staging, that we don't do drawings.
Yeah,
So I found something that I love, that I was good at, that I could excel at. Um, I think that if there is a sector of the business that you really are good at, just do that and
exactly.
hire members of your team, or hire someone who can do that. If you're not good at sales, hire a salesperson. If you're not good at marketing, hire a marketing person. If you're not good at social media, hire a social media expert. Do what you love
Yeah. And for
100% because you'll
all of
grow that way.
all of the people out there who maybe feel like, okay, well, I can't budget for that right now. I can't afford that. You're going to have to get through the uncomfortableness of learning how to do sales, like Kathy said, because the money's got to come from somewhere. The relationships have to be built somewhere. So, what advice do you have for somebody who maybe is a people person but doesn't feel, to your point, like they've done sales? Where can you find that they can find resources or confidence in themselves to tap into that a little bit more?
So, one piece of advice is you're going to need help early on in order to really grow. So I did have an assistant, so to speak, someone who would work a full-time job and then rush through dinner to help me stage model residences at night. So these are properties in which no one's living in them. A lot of times we would have a key, knock on a trailer until that person decided to put down their size 13 Birkenstock and say, baby, you got to get somebody else. And that was my husband.
Of course.
My husband who told me, you got to get somebody else. I'm not doing this anymore.
He quit on you, huh?
He did. And he's never come back to the staging. So again, that was me realizing that we've grown. We've
Mhm,
grown to the point where it's not just me and my husband going in at night. So I had a relationship with the design school that I was attending, the Fashion Institute of Technology, and they're students. They're who would love the opportunity for hands-on experience, who have a set of skills that they can already bring to the table and you can grow. I think it's very important to be a mentor and to grow and groom talent. I have always done that. I've been told that I'm a good cheerleader. And I think that that's a good way to groom talent within your organization. The other question that you asked is relating to sales. How can you get that knowledge? I have discovered that there's a lot out there as far as free resources that are available to us as entrepreneurs that we may not participate in. One is SCORE, which is associated with the Small Business Administration, and you can meet with a mentor. And these are experts in their field who are typically retired, not always retired. And you can have more than one SCORE mentor. So you can have someone who can assist you in marketing, sales, anything. If you need business plan help, financial statement help,
yeah,
whatever it is, that is, there are a lot of state and federal entities that can help small business owners. And I highly suggest that you participate in some of those opportunities. You're in essence paying for them with your
you
tax dollars.
are. Yeah,
So why not take advantage? And they're free. There are a
yeah,
lot of programs to help entrepreneurs. You just have to look.
mhm.
It takes a little digging, but you just have to look.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note of just looking, my mother actually had a long time career working for the library system. And that was one of the things, and I grew up not having a cell phone and having to do research at the
Mhm.
library, but there is still libraries out there, and you could go to any library and ask them for this information, and they have all of it available too. So if you feel overwhelmed by doing the Googling and you're not sure where to research, go use those resources to Kathy's point that you're already paying for with your tax dollars and ask. Just ask.
Libraries are underutilized.
I agree.
Public libraries, and it's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
These days they're a wealth of different types of technology. You can get audiobooks.
Yes.
You can
3D
get
printers at some of them. I'm amazed.
that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something that I needed, and someone said, "Did you know that you can get that at the public library?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Really?" Again, we get so focused on maybe one avenue that we think is available to us. You need to tap into, especially if you're on a budget, especially if you're starting out, those building block resources that you can use that are low point to entry financially. Build yourself a foundation, get going, and then go into the higher tier, higher investment. But you don't need that at the
No.
beginning. You definitely don't need it at the beginning.
No. And sometimes at the beginning, if you were to get that, you might put yourself in a position where it's too much to handle and you
Or you
don't
don't
know how to,
understand it.
yeah.
Or you
So
don't
take it
understand. You
one
can't
step at a
really take
time.
advantage. So one of the, going back to, how everything started, I think that everything that you need for success will come through pre-planning. You don't
Hmm.
get to the Super Bowl unless you've won a couple of games.
Hmm.
Or if you're put into the Super Bowl, you're not going to win. That's always been something that's always guided me. There have been instances where people have offered me things that I just didn't think I was ready for.
Hmm.
And I was honest. I'm not sure I'm ready. In some instances, I came back to them, and one instance they said, "Well, thank you, but we want to hire you." I was asked to design a whole building, the lobby, the amenity spaces, and I'd never done it.
Wow.
And I had staged for some of them, for some of their properties that they owned, and I was honest. I said, "I just wanna let you know I've never done this." And they said, "I appreciate you letting us know, but we think you can do it."
Gave me chills.
And I did it,
Yeah.
but I was also honest.
Yeah.
I managed expectations. And so I think as you grow a business, you need to dial up every so often in order to really level up your business and grow. I always say if you want to stay in the same place, stay in the same place.
Hmm.
And anyone who has ever really succeeded, if you say, wow, how did they blow up? Because they took on new challenges.
Yes. And a chance
They
on
took on
themselves.
they took on new
Yeah.
challenges. That's how they did it.
Yeah.
And so what I say is master a certain goal or achieve a certain goal. I really believe in goal setting. That's something that has just guided me since I was 18 years old.
Mm.
And I set my goals every year on my birthday, which is shortly after the new year in January. And I go back and I look, I'm like, I remember it was like, get a truck. And I'm like, wow, I own 3 trucks. That was a goal? I mean, it was like, get 1 staging a month. Really? It's like,
It
it's
has to
empowering.
start
I'm
somewhere.
telling you, it's
Yeah.
empowering. Sometimes you're like, "Well, I haven't accomplished anything." If you had written down those goals and you go back to it, you'd be surprised. So, plant a seed, allow it to grow, and that will be an absolute recipe for scaling your
Hmm.
business. I promise.
So,
I
do you still have all of your goals somewhere in your
Oh,
office or at
absolutely.
home? Oh, that's
Oh, no, I do it every
incredible.
every
And
every, uh, every year, and I mean,
and
I'm
you're
talking
writing it
going back.
down?
Oh, 100%.
I love that.
100%. I put it in my phone and it's goals this year. I talk about what I accomplished last year. I'm talking to myself.
Hmm.
And then I say, here we go. Or let's make this the best year ever. And I talk about some of the challenges that I had, some of the goals that are still holdovers. They're
Hmm.
personal and professional goals, but I write them down, and I've been writing them down since I was 18 years old. 18 years old.
So, on the topic of making goals, and to your point, there's some of them that you don't always hit. Have you ever had a point in your career or in your personal life where there was just one particular goal that is just sitting there, sitting there, sitting there that you still haven't been able to get to? And if so, do you happen to shelf it? Or do you bring that back every couple years and try to reevaluate if it's still important to you?
100%. That I
Okay.
that I do. I can say that, the book was one of those goals.
Yeah.
And just to make it more generic, it was a goal that seems so big,
Mm.
and that it was unattainable. Like, it's just so big. Where do I start? Do you have to have a literary agent? Do you have to have this? Do you have to have that? What's the topic? And, but having the goal helped when it presented an opportunity when I happened to be on that webinar and say,
Hmm.
"Hey, I've always wanted to," that had it never been on the dream board or what I call the book of possibilities, it would have never come to fruition because it had never, now it was realized it had always been there. So that's why goals are so important.
I
That's why
love that.
goals are so important. If not, it's like having, like where are you going?
Hmm.
What's the start and what's the end point? Where are we going? And I have so many goals. I always say that, at the end of my lifetime, I just would have run out of time.
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't have
love
run
that.
out of goals. I'm just gonna run out of
Run
time.
out of time to fulfill them
Gonna
all.
run out of time.
So, do you set goals with your team?
I do.
And do you
We
do that
are
as
an
a group?
Well, we're an EOS traction company, and
Hmm.
so we definitely believe in goal setting. We have level 10 meetings every week. We have rocks that people have to accomplish, and we set goals. Those are long-term goals, short-term, long-term goals, milestones that basically fall into what I call time chunking.
Mm,
So setting that goal and time chunking it. So as a business owner, when we look at a staging company, let's say your goal is to, start getting inventory. Maybe it's just starting to staff, and then it's inventory, and then maybe it's getting your own trucks, and maybe it's leasing your
mhm,
own space. Those types of goals. How do you get there? And I believe that one great principle is through setting milestones and goal chunking and chunking your time to get there. So let's say it's, I'd like to own my first vehicle. Well, how are you going to get there? What's the price point? And then how are you going to achieve what you need
mhm.
to get to that goal? So those are the things that I think are really important as far as business growth. One of the aspects that I can 100%, this isn't where I started. This
Right.
is where I am. I was flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I got a staging and I'm like, okay, so now
What do I do?
now what? Now
Yeah.
what? And I, I was there. It was 100%. In those early days. This is where I've grown.
Hmm.
And through lessons and scabbing my knees and making the wrong decisions and learning.
Hmm.
And that's where I am now, which is like the maturity of a business, but I'm still a work in
You
progress.
still have stuff to do.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that one of the golden lights in this business is the RESA conference.
I was just
Is
going to bring that
It's
up.
the RESA conference. I have friends that these aren't just colleagues, these are friends that
Hmm.
right now I can we're texting today. It's, "Hi ladies, has anyone had blah blah blah." I sent a note out, "Hey, I need this in a week. Can anybody give me blah 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 blah?" And they started responding. They start responding. And this is a group of ladies who, people who I knew, who I met during RESA, and we started to kind of help each other during COVID, and we're still helping each other. But you are not going to get that camaraderie, those resources without going to an event such as
Hmm.
RESACON where you're going to be around like minds. Yes, you can go to other business conferences
Yeah.
and learn from other business owners, but it's not going to be the same.
No.
I can tell you that I have grown throughout my trajectory as a professional through networking and through attending conferences. When I was a journalist,
Hmm.
I attended conferences. I sat there and learned from network correspondents and learned what they did and how they got to
Yep.
where they got and those types of things. I think that learning is critical to growth.
Yes.
You're not going to get business on your couch. You
Not
have
at
to
all.
get out there and get it. My brother was teasing me when I was trying to find a husband. I've been married now for 21 years. He said, "Not going to
Those
meet him on your
brothers.
couch, Kathy. You're not going to meet him on your couch, and you're not going to get business on your couch either. You're going to have to network
Hmm.
and make it happen."
And invest in yourself.
Oh, well, that's
You
where the
know?
education comes in. The
Yeah.
education is investing in yourself, in
Mhm.
your business, in your future. That's where the investment comes in, investing in your future.
And for those who are like, why would I network with somebody who's technically like my competitor? What would you say to those people?
Well, I think that that's an interesting concept. So when I was in design school, one of my professors was actually, he still is, in the Interior Design Hall of Fame, which is a
Mm,
very coveted accolade
yeah.
that's awarded in the design industry. And we became friends. We're actually still friends. He came to my book launch party, and we've
Love
been to
that.
each other's homes. And one night, he was running out of uh, FIT. I said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I gotta go to my networking group." I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Well, it's a group of, fellow designers." And I said, "Like who?" And he named the name, and they were huge in design. You would know these names,
Hmm.
and they're also members of the Interior Design Hall of Fame. I said, "Well, why are you meeting with them?" He said, about 10 years ago, a group of us got together and we said, let's just make it casual. And it's people who I admired, had lost business to, just to kind of talk. And they're already competitors. They don't see each other as enemies. And they're not giving away their state secrets. They're kind of trying to keep the industry um, whole and up to a certain quality, a standard. And I think that that's where, an organization like RESA is so strong in creating a standard of excellence and quality. We're all hurt as professionals when people come in to undercut the market, when people come in as a disruptor. That is not helpful to anyone. And so that's where that camaraderie
Hmm.
and togetherness and helping of each other, that's why it's so pivotal at a RESA. I every single year, and I've been an active participant in RESA, uh, I'd say 15, 16 years. I was one of the people who got on
Early.
stage, and they stopped
Yeah.
counting. I think at a decade, but I'm one of the OGs, as they say,
Yes.
and I come, and there are so many people who I know respect, and I have made it a point, and I would give someone this advice when they go, Teresa, is that every single session or every single lunch, I sit at a different table specifically with people I don't know, specifically with people I don't know, in order to grow. And I've sat next to people I don't know, and then we become friends. And these are the people who I'm saying that I
Hmm.
know because I took the time to sit next to someone who I didn't know. And so that's how you grow your network. It's like, when we were in elementary school, if you stuck with the same person
Yeah.
all the time, how can you, well, no, I met her in blah, 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 or we played together today, on the playground. And that's how a new friendship is formed. It's the
I
same
love that.
same principle.
And after 15 years, you're obviously still finding value in it, or else, I
Mhm.
mean, you are extremely successful in many different ways. We haven't even talked about the fact that you, 5 Emmys, okay? 5 Emmys,
I've
design
Emmy.
star. I mean, she is a professional. And I could just tell I had Cathy answer a couple questions before we got on today, reading your book, doing my research, listening to a couple podcasts you've been on. And I'm like, man, she is goal oriented. And it seems like every goal she has, she crushes it because she pushes herself to the limit and she dedicates herself to the things that she loves. So she doesn't have to be at RESACON every year, but you
No, I
still
have been.
come.
I think there
Yeah.
was only probably 1 year in 15, 16 years that I couldn't make it, because of a family conflict, but, I've attended probably only not attended 1 RESACON in probably 15, 16 years. Um, but what I wanna say is that when you talk about, growing,
Hmm.
that comes from staying relevant and also staying current on current trends.
Hmm.
And the only way that you can do that is to expose yourself to other people and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
The one of the main reasons why I come is because if I have just one takeaway, and it can be really small, you know, that's growth.
Yep.
One year, I remember I had just had a real challenge, processing credit cards. Like, it was just, what service, what company,
Mhm.
and then I was in a session at RESACON where someone introduced me to 17 hats, and I said, "I love that." But that was my one takeaway. I have attended sessions on systems,
Mhm.
on inventory, warehousing, and a lot of that is just stored. It's like I'm like a nut
Mm.
gatherer. I'm storing that knowledge, and at the time, it was not relevant to me, but I kept the information as a reference, and so that's where I think that sometimes people say, "Well, I'm just a newbie,"
Yeah.
or "I'm too advanced and I don't need to hear X." I think that you can learn from different people, and I personally feel that I can learn from people who are not necessarily where I am. We
Mhm.
can learn from everyone. I really like hearing from like hearing different perspectives from stagers who are in different parts of the country. I find
Yeah.
that very interesting,
Mhm.
because I'm in a metropolitan environment. For those who don't know where my business is located, I'm in New York City, and that's where 99.9% of my business is. So why can't I learn from a stager who's in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
who's in San Francisco, who's in Miami? The answer is I can.
Mhm.
And I I kinda sometimes I chase someone down the hall, "Hey, I really like what you had to say," or "I hear you and so and so." I mean, this is all about, uh, just growing, and
Mhm.
that's just who I am. I'm the person who watches my child's game and, learns about the person next to me and, "Oh, you do so and so?" You just never know.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the main takeaway. You just never know.
And all the people that you get to meet. I mean, the educational sessions are amazing, but from everything that I hear, it's also the networking, the talking to the people at the lunch, or before the awards dinner, or in meeting up afterwards, for a cocktail. I mean, you'll
Mhm,
see lots
mhm,
of
mhm,
stagers at the bar afterwards, hanging
mhm.
out, talking to each other, and just put yourself out there. If you are going to attend RESACON this year, don't just go up to your room after the sessions. Find somebody. Cathy will be there, I'm sure.
I
You can
will
say
be there.
hello to Cathy. And I just can't wait to see you at RESACON and to continue seeing your journey. You've done so much for this industry, and I am so thankful for everything that you do to put the word out there about home staging. It's still a fairly new industry, and your voice matters. And I'm so happy that you came on to tell your story, because my favorite part of this work is hearing about how people get crazy ideas to start a business,
Mhm, mhm.
and their backgrounds and what they've gone through, and being able to do that on camera for those people who are new, or maybe they're at a point in their business where they're ready to make a big change. Just hearing somebody else's journey, I think will help inspire those people to take chances, to set those goals,
You
to
have to
get
take a
out
chance.
there.
You
Yeah.
have to take a chance. I think, if I leave you with this one thing, it is, believe in yourself, and if you were to look back and regret not doing something, that means that you have to do it.
Mm.
I also believe in gaining knowledge, and this goes back to you talking about your experience as a child going to the public library through
Hmm.
reading. I read so many professional books because I want to learn from those people who have already charted their own path. It's a concept called modeling,
Yeah.
and it's modeling after success. They say success leaves clues.
Mm.
And so I'm reading the professional books probably 3, 4 a week. I'm listening to them. I'm listening to them while I'm cooking, while I'm walking the dog, but I'm soaking in while I'm driving. I'm listening to it. My husband's like, he's always like,
That's
"Are you
impressive.
listening to book on tape again?" Yeah, I am. And he's like, well, I'm trying to tell you something. I have grown so much by learning about people who have been, as they say, the pinnacle of success, the Jack Welches of the world. Of
Mm,
course, I read his biography, and those are the types of things that I think that you can, um, just take a little bit of a nugget from someone who has done what you want to achieve, and just have that as an aspirational model, not to copy, not to emulate, but to learn from. And I think that that is a powerful tool.
I love that. So before we got on, I posted a quick little reel or story asking people to send me their questions. And I have two
Okay.
questions really
Okay,
quick.
go.
So, what is your thought on color drenching?
That's so funny that you should mention color drenching. I wrote an article recently
Oh,
about color drenching. I've heard about it so much. So for those of you who may not know what color drenching is, it's just saturating a room with color. It's the baseboard is the wall color, the trim is the wall, like everything is just drenched in one color. I have to admit, I'm not a fan. I don't know why. I just really love a molding that sets off from a wall. It's just what I love.
it's your personal preference.
I think it highlights the architecture more. And as a designer, I gravitate towards the bones
Mm,
of a space. Um, I color drenching is a new thing,
yeah, we're
but
not going to find it in your house.
you won't find it in my house,
Okay, that's
but I can
good.
respect someone who has it in theirs.
Okay, next one. What is your thought on wallpapered ceilings in general?
Wallpaper or wallpapering a ceiling.
Wallpapering a ceiling specifically.
Ooh. Um, love wallpaper.
Okay.
Love wallpaper. Not so much wallpapering a ceiling. That to me goes to retro. That's like a
Oh,
70s, 80s thing to me.
okay.
I think it's too much. I think
Too
it
much.
feels too much like you go into like a house of mirrors and it's just like something's just everywhere. It just feels too much. Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not digging it, as they
S-
say.
So
But
kind of similar to your
wallpaper I
feelings
like.
on color drenching. It's like the
Yeah,
same feeling, too much.
we're 0 for 2.
Okay.
What
Last but not
okay.
least, what trend do you want to see go away?
Go away. I don't know. I was about to say a trend that I do like.
Well, tell me that then.
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of chunky furniture. I call it like the elephant look, chunky legs on a coffee table, side table. You're seeing the
Hmm.
cylinder look. I kind of like it. I think it is almost like a new take on mid-century modern. I love wood. And so what you tend to see in that chunk is wood. Like you're seeing a little bit more of a finish of a leg,
Hmm.
of a just bringing that organic
Craftsmanlike.
element.
Hmm.
So that I like.
I'm
That
with you.
that can
I
stay.
definitely like that too.
That can stay. And you're seeing that if you go to market,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you go to market after RESACON, which is another great opportunity to learn and grow. You'll get not only the knowledge at a RESACON, but then you'll also get growth for your business and learn about latest trends as it relates to inventory to also grow your business because that's what market is all about, those
Hmm.
introductions. So make that a little
Priority.
add-on, a
Yes. And
priority to
also,
do both.
lots of content creation happens at the market. I mean, you can
Yeah.
create content there just by shooting a couple pieces of furniture that you're in love with to last you for like 3 months, I
But
feel
then you
like.
also become an influencer, which is
Yeah,
hot right now,
it
is
is.
that people go to feeds of people who they admire. Sometimes you go there for a chuckle, but a lot of times people go there for content and
Hmm.
information. And that is where you can also grow your business by becoming a an influencer by being up to date on trends.
Who are you following on Instagram that you're influenced by? Are there any accounts that you're like really in love
I'm
with
not
right
going to
now?
name names,
Okay.
but I have identified some staging companies and design people around the country and
Mm,
around the world who I admire. And I love to see where they find inspiration
mhm,
and love to see their like what they post. I believe that while we may be a local company, and I mean are us as an entrepreneur, uh,
mhm,
entity, that we are global. And I think that when people are researching in general, I'll give you an example, the nightclub industry. Um, I know that there are some owners, I knew some owners in Miami, and they would go to Ibiza, the
mhm. Yep.
Ibiza, Spain,
Yep.
which is just nightclub central, where I've also vacationed. And why? Because they were studying
Mhm,
different trends across the globe. So why not go, and they would go to Paris, and they would go to Ibiza, and they would go to places like Corsica and
mhm.
Santorini and
Greece. Mhm,
Mykonos in
mhm.
order to study nightclubs.
Yeah. Hey,
So if
fun.
you are a designer, I often say that it's very difficult to really grow as a designer without having traveled.
Mhm,
And even if it means that you're just traveling to a furniture market, if you're traveling to a different city, a different country. My husband and my daughter always tease me. They're like, she's photographing it again. I
mm.
mean, I could be in an airport. I'm like, I like this. And I'll take a photo. Oh, they're like, you ready? And we're riding bikes in Denmark. And I'm like, I'm photographing. And what was interesting is at a certain point in my book, there were examples that I wanted to show. And I used my own photographs that had been
Mhm.
taken around the world
Yeah.
to show that example because it wasn't a staging example. It was an example relating to a design principle. And so that's why, travel, growing, learning, networking is hand in hand with growing.
Yeah, it sounds like that's definitely been the key to your success.
Yeah.
So, on that note of getting Cathy's books, where can we find this beautiful book?
Well, I always say that you can find it wherever books are sold. But one
Exactly.
of the key resources is by going to my website, cathyhobbs.com. There's a link there that will take you to a portal where you can buy the book. And I hope that it is inspiring to you because I wrote it to be inspirational. And I always say, let the recipes be your guide.
Yeah. I really hope for those of you that are watching or listening, however it is that you're consuming this podcast today, that you pick up the book, that you consume it, and then implement it in your life. Even if you're not a home stager, people tune into this podcast who are just interested in this lifestyle, learning about it. Do take the book and implement it, share it on social media, tag Cathy. I'm sure she would really appreciate to know that people are implementing everything that she has shared in here is gold. I'm a little way halfway through and I just started it last night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed.
Well,
I can't wait to read
congratulations.
it.
If I can share some of those tags really quick, the book is
Yes.
Home Design Recipes. Home Design Recipes is the name of my book, and you can follow me on Instagram at Cathy Hobbs or Design Recipes. And my website is cathyhobbs.com.
Well, thank you so much, Cathy, for
Thank you
spending
for
an
having
hour
me.
of your time. I know you're super busy, and I can't wait to see you in July at RESACON. We're going to have a
I'll be
blast, and it
there,
will
and
be
I'll
here
also
before
be
you know it.
speaking.
Yes, you will. So get your ticket now. It's resaconvention.com. The tickets will be going up mid-May, and you'll get the opportunity to learn from Cathy in person. And this year we had Over 65 submissions, the most that we have ever
Oh,
had.
to
It's
speak.
Yes, it's been
Nice.
incredible. The
That's
topics, I
gonna be
am blown
informative.
away. So usually we do 3 sessions at a time. We're bumping it back up. We've done it one other time to 4 at a time because there is just too much good stuff. We can't turn it away. So this is
And
not
there are
one to
virtual
miss.
tickets if people can't make it or they can't make it to
Yes.
all the sessions.
Yes. You'll be able to, we'll actually have the speakers like Cathy come and join us on Zoom after the fact. So you'll even get to ask her question. It's not like a pre-recorded thing. So find a way to get there. If you can't, at least sign up for the virtual because you'll learn so much and you still get a chance to connect with people like Cathy. So join us at RESACON this July. And Cathy, enjoy the rest of your day. I can't wait to dig into the rest of this book, and I will be implementing a couple things myself. So
Well, enjoy, and I hope
thank
to see
you.
everyone at RESACON, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. As Shell Broadnax always says, happy staging. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.